At Tufts, we use Duo two-factor authentication, or 2FA. Duo is a second layer of login security used for most applications and services at Tufts. When a user tries to access an application, the user must authenticate twice before successfully logging into the application. First, they log in with their username and password. Then, they authenticate again using Duo. Duo will contact the user to double check that they are the ones logging in. To do this, Duo might call the user's work phone or send a push notification to the Duo mobile application on their phone. In their Duo settings, users must have at least one mobile, work, home, or other phone number configured for Duo to be able to contact them for authentication. Connected phones are called devices because you can download the Duo app on a device like a tablet. There's nothing wrong with having multiple devices configured. The user can always delete or change their devices later. When you first start troubleshooting Duo, consider if the problem is something that the user can do themselves and you can walk them through it. The Tufts IT Guide is a public website where you and users can go to get help walking through how to use Duo from a user perspective. On the left-hand side, there are common actions a user might want to do, and clicking any of these actions, such as how to enroll and set up a device, takes you to a brief blurb explaining this and then step-by-step instructions on how to do this. The action will always start with the user opening the 2FA service page, which has a link that goes to a page where users can manage their own devices and settings. If the user cannot follow the steps, or the user has a more in-depth problem, what do? In Tech Connect, you have access to knowledge base articles, which are a wealth of information on how to troubleshoot most problems that you'll encounter. Open Tech Connect, search in the top right for Duo, and open the knowledge base article that has all the troubleshooting information and other helpful links for two-factor authentication with Duo. Much of the troubleshooting that you'll be doing for Duo will either be in the Tufts Tools Admin Console or the Duo Admin Console. First, let's walk through what the Duo Admin Console looks like. To get to the Duo Admin Console, you will go to duo.com, and in the top right, you will click Admin Login. Duo will automatically identify you as affiliated with Tufts and ask you to continue to the identity provider. Clicking Continue to the Identity Provider will take you to a Tufts login screen, so you'll log in with your Tufts username and password. To get to the Duo Admin Console, you'll actually be authenticated with Duo, so follow the steps on the screen to authenticate. And now I'm logged into the Duo Admin Console. On the left side, you have the functions that you're most likely going to use when you're troubleshooting. You can come down to users in the left side and see every single user at Tufts. To troubleshoot a specific user, search for that user by their username in the top right of the user table, then click on their username to open that user's record. You'll see information about the user, including the status of their Duo account, such as if it's active or disabled. Bypass is not used at Tufts. Scrolling down, you can see the user's recent authentications, their recent activity. If you see Tufts University Shibboleth, this is the user logging into a Tufts application like Qualtrics or Box. Scrolling down more, you have a list of the phone numbers that the user has configured with Duo. So let's look at some troubleshooting. What if a user doesn't have their device? Maybe the user has a new phone. Maybe the user has a British phone, but they're visiting the United States, so they temporarily have a United States phone number. From the main page of the Duo Admin Console, I'll go to Users on the left. I'll search for the user by username. I'll click on their username to bring up their record. I'll make sure their status is active. I'll scroll down to Phones, and on the right, I will click Add Phone. Then I'll enter the phone number and click Add Phone, and I will get a little pop-up saying, "Success, the phone was added to this user." Now, the user can try to log in again to their application or service and successfully have Duo call that new phone number. Note to the user that Duo will only call their new phone. If the user wants to do a Duo push, the user needs to install the Duo app on their phone. What if someone has failed to authenticate with Duo enough times that they get locked out of Duo so they can no longer log in? What you'll do here is you'll again go to the Duo admin console. You'll go to Users on the left, and then you have two choices to get to the user. There is a Locked Out tab on the right to jump to just a list of locked out users. Or you can, as before, search for the user in the top right of this table. I'm going to search for the user by their username and click on their username. When I click on their username, I can see that their status is locked out. I'll scroll down to the user's recent authentication attempts, check with the user that all recent authentication attempts were performed by them and not, for example, a bad actor impersonating them attempting to get into their account. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change their status to active. Then I'm going to scroll down and click Save Changes. And I'm going to scroll down more and click Reactivate Duo Mobile. The last problem the service desk commonly encounters is that the user doesn't have their device on them, so they currently can't authenticate with Duo. For example, maybe the user left their phone at home. In Tufts Tools, you can temporarily suspend a user's Duo account, but this is generally not advisable unless it is an absolute necessity. First, try other available options, which are listed in the knowledge base article for Duo in Tech Connect. For example, perhaps the user has a second phone that they can enroll in, such as a landline device. If you determine that you need to temporarily suspend the user's Duo account, follow the steps in the knowledge base article, including documenting that you have temporarily disabled two-factor status for the user in the spreadsheet updating the ticket. As a high-level overview, in Tufts Tools you can temporarily disable two-factor status so the user can log in. To do this, I will go to Tufts Tools. I will make sure I am logged in as an admin, and then search for the user. The easiest way to do this is using their username. This will take you to the user information page for that user, and if you scroll down, you will see two-factor status is enabled. Switch this to disabled so now the user won't be prompted for Duo. At the very bottom of the screen, click Update. Note that Tufts Tools can be a little slow for the pages to load, so if you have clicked a button, searched for a user, clicked Update, as long as the website looks like it's loading, you are all set to just wait. Something to note is disabling Duo will work for web-based applications such as Qualtrics or Box, but it won't work for critical services like VPN. To recap Duo troubleshooting, users can add or remove a device. They can change their phone number, and there are instructions for this in the Tufts Duo IT Guide. Common issues that you will run into are if the user needs to change to a different device with a new number, if a user is locked out of Duo, or if a user doesn't have their device on them. To change to a different device or if the user is locked out of Duo, you will go to duo.com, click Admin Login in the top right, and then you can come to Users on the left and search for the user. If the user doesn't have their device on them, for example, they just left it at home, after determining that there are no other solutions, you will come to Tufts Tools, go to the admin login, and search for the user here. If you have any problems with Duo, including just learning more about Duo, read through the knowledge base article completely dedicated to Duo in Tech Connect. So you'll come to Tech Connect, search for Duo on the top right, and find the two-factor authentication support documentation knowledge base article.